Hello, this is Dr. Mike Labasi. I'm a professor of cybersecurity at Sinclair College in Dayton, Ohio. And this is just a general video on a topic I came up with a couple years ago called the Zen of Pentesting. And specifically, it came about from teaching this course on pen testing at the college. Also, my own experience. So, this course, and of course, if you're a student watching this, you will do a live pen test as part of the course. And I found it brings about some different reactions, and this, of course, we'll talk about what it is, and maybe how you can use this sort of Zen to help you get through and become just a good pen tester. So, first off, Zen. What is Zen? You can use in the WebsterDictionary.com. We have Merriam-Webster.com here. We have the state of calm attentiveness, which one's actions are guided by intuition rather than conscious effort. So, intuition is a key thing there. That's something that even there's a lot of doubt. So, especially being new to pen testing, you don't think you have any intuition, but be surprised. Sometimes your gut feeling is something you need to pay attention to. So, we'll talk about that. And of course, pen testing, which you work on a methodology, which has under specific constraints. So you have this sort of calm versus chaos, intuition versus constraints, timelines versus the tools and so on. Just the amount of work versus what you have, scope, and things like that. So again, we're going to look at this strange dichotomy here between these two, and hopefully give you a quick thread of some ways to help deal with maybe your first or your current 100th pen test. So again, this came about from NetLabs. So NetLabs are online labs we use in many courses here at the college, and they're fantastic. Don't get me wrong, I do like NetLabs. It's a place for you to freely practice, use tools guided by you have full PDFs with step-by-steps, explanations of the steps. You get consistent results. You can go back and run it again. There's no setups to do. You just start the lab. They are great. They're fantastic for learning. They're fantastic for practicing. So please don't let this be any. I'm not by any way, bringing down NetLabs, but I do say that there is what we call the lab effect, and this is what's generally missing is the set up your own tools, patching, running your own tools. Maybe writing your own scripts during a pen test, something you don't really get too much. There's this general chaos of testing. We'll talk about that and ways to handle it. And that's something you don't really get. So, again, I call this the lab effect. And it's not a bad effect at all. You need labs. You need ways to practice. And this goes beyond NetLabs too. Capture the flag. Anything that has been curated to help you guide through as a learning experience. That curation sometimes can sort of really skew what it's like to do a live pen test. So again, we'll skip these few things here. This is talking about how I set up this course on pen testing, where we use a live pen test. At the time of this recording, we use HackerOne as your main target, and you're going to use that during the live test throughout the course. So I don't want to get too much into course material here. We're going to go and just look at the Zen of pen testing, the philosophy here. So a lot of times it's, where do I start? Even if you have a scope of work, even if you have your plan, you still may be uncertain. When do you pull the trigger? When do you go? So understanding your flow. Knowing there's a path you're going to take and you need to travel it. And this is from my site called Sticker Heist. Have a plan in place, and really, I mentioned before, start off with just looking at everything. Recon, understanding your target in general. That's going to help you really get your foothold. I can't say enough for step one there. That recon step is going to help you. And you're going to come back to it many times too. Don't think you do recon once and it's over. Part of this path you can see here is you may find something and find yourself going back to recon. You may find an exploit, you're back to recon. Stopping and gaining your ground and seeing what's going on is going to be a key part of this. And also be aware, during this recon, during a vulnerability, during exploitation, new paths may open. You might find new systems, you might find new exploits, you might find certain exploits you thought were valid were not. That will close certain paths. So a path through, think of it as pivoting, ways to get through to your system, trying to get through as deep as you can. So realize that your path here is set. You're going to be dictated by time, and also statement of work, rules of engagement, things like that are going to come down and bear what you can do during this process. So clear understanding of those, and it could be simply just pulling those out of a pen testing contract and putting them into your top of your notes. Here's my scope of work. Here's my 2 systems to I can only attack. Here's what I can do, I can't do. For example, a lot of times when I do pen test engagements, I definitely don't get authorization to do any kind of DDoS. So of course, no DDoS, and it's going to help you along the journey because you don't need to worry about getting tools that can help you with that, but you're not going to use it. So, and keep your scope in mind. Again, that's what I just came about to say that. Talked about it already. So, and probably the biggest thing here is keeping notes. Document your journey. Document your process. Keep copious notes. You'll find tools, and you might change tools. I think I've settled on one tool I've used for the past 5 or 6 years now. But you might find yourself using whatever. Use whatever tool works for you. You will find your own process, and you might change it every engagement. So I might keep some stuff on online cloud, sync it down to my system. A lot of times I might have 2 systems. I have maybe a laptop sitting here running my main stuff, and then maybe up here on this system I will have music going, chat open, things like that. So if you have, of course, the availability to have that many systems, it's nice to have a test system versus a sort of a note-keeping system. Screen pics, copy and paste terminal output. Even if you don't think it's needed, have something here. So this is a screenshot of my different pen tests, meeting notes, screenshots, copy and paste of just text output from terminals. It all goes into the stuff here. So again, during this time, you may find some detours, you may find some overload. So your path may be rough at times. Let's talk about some of this. This is probably the biggest thing here. This is probably the most important slide, I believe, for my concept here is pen testing is about failing. So it can be very hard on you mentally when you try something doesn't work, you try something doesn't work, you think you have a vulnerability, it doesn't work. Not everything is clear cut. You find exploit DB, you find some sample code, you maybe going to try to execute that. Why can't I get that remote shell? Scanner says there's possible SQL injection point here. I can't get nothing to work though. SQL map's not working. I can't get a SQL injection to actually kick off. And this is tough. You're going to fail a lot. So when you fail, come back, look at your notes, and realize maybe what you did. Sometimes you need to step back and think of a different approach. So pen testing is about failing. It's also about this, false positives. This is going to be part of your failing process. You will run a tool, and you'll come up saying, oh my god, I have 2 or 3 or even more, a bunch of really good possible targets, and you realize the tool itself is spitting out false positives. So this goes back to understanding just how the tool works. I'll give you an example. Maybe I'm doing like a dirbuster, and it comes back, or a directory scanner against a web target, and it comes back and says it found an admin.php, it found a login.php, and so on. Like, wow, great. I go to the website and I can't find that page because the way the tool works. The tool looks for anything that's not a 404 error. So the client, though, has put up an actual custom error page, which is actually pretty smart, saying that, I'm sorry, this page does not exist. Please contact our technical support, at this contact for any help. So the tool itself sees a positive result on the 300 or so, so your HTTP codes. So understanding how the codes work and how your tool works helps you realize that, yes, okay, I got a bunch of false positives. Now you're not sure what to look at. Even worse so is you're like, how much of the false positives do you wade through to figure out which ones are actually not false positives? So, so don't assume anything worked. That's also a good one. Because you have an exploit from a tool doesn't mean it's going to work. And tools, I got to talk about it right. So also another part of pen testing, after waiting through the false positives, after failing on stuff you think should be there, maybe it's not working. Even if it's not working, still keep a note of it, especially if you have multiple tools that found a possible vulnerability. Again, you're under a time constraint. Given more time, you might be able to actually kick off the exploit, but making notes of it and reporting that back to your clients can be very important. So, again, also not all finds are going to be I'm not in. You're not going to find any 0 days, hair on fire. It's I can only count on the one hand the number of times I've gotten, like injection exploits or something major somewhere I'm able to get data out of a client. So not everything's going to be priority one, severity one stuff. You're not going to always get root shell. You might not get the yell. You might not get the after yell, I'm in, which is always famous from me. I say it because of a lot of hacking movies, hackers in movies. That's always a famous line. You yell, I'm in. So keep that in mind. And it doesn't mean that you failed. It means that you're finding stuff that could be later. That low exploit, that low vulnerability could become worse later. So still, it needs to be addressed possibly by your client. Info overload. Yes. That's something else that's going to happen too. This is where the labs the labs are very curated. You get back precise results. You run a test, you run an Nmap. You don't realize maybe your target has using some like FireEye in place, and it gives you back a ton of open ports. This is both false positive, possibly, and also just a lot of more information you expected back. So tool output will do this. You'll get a lot of output you did not expected. You need to wade through it. Unexpected results. You see this from other tools. And errors. Yeah, something that a lot of times labs will give you. Certain errors. Tools are getting errors. It could be an error from your system, the operating system. It could be the tool install. It could be communicating across. It could be there's a WAF in place, a web app firewall in place. Things that you just didn't expect. You're getting unexpected errors. And you need to wade through those and figure out what's the noise and what's the signal. Is there, if it's simple, if I'm getting errors from a web app firewall, then I just ignore them. I say, well, I'm getting a WAF. It's giving me these unexpected results. Make note of it. It's actually a positive note. You can come back to the client and say, hey, good job on your WAF has been blocking my scanning, and which is good because that's what it should do. And it's okay to Google. This is going to be one of your best friends right here. This is probably your peak thing here. So problem is, Googling can also give you overload. You might find more results than you needed. But you might see some examples of tools to use. You might get some sample code, help and documents on help, alternative tools to use. This is actually a big one. If you can find two tools, for example, maybe Burp Suite and Zap or Nikto, for example, Nikto and Burp Suite. If I'm scanning a website down and both tools come up with a possible vulnerability, that's a good indication that it could be something further to research. So analysis paralysis. Now I talked about this before. You can get this not just from the results, but also the tools themselves. This is part of the overload. Actually, I should have brought this up earlier. This is just the Kali tools list. This is all tools. Like, where do you even start sometimes? That's a big list of tools. Now, and this is just Kali. This is not all the tools that are available in GitHub and other resources. So again, Google is going to be some help, but realize that even just what tool to use can also be that. So back to the slide here on analysis paralysis. What does that mean? Okay, you think you found something. Maybe you think you might be able, maybe the session ID, maybe it's not as random as you thought. Maybe there's some way I can use that. Maybe I decoded this session ID, find out there's an ID number inside there. Can I use it? You might end up spending hours just circling around this, and you end up spending too much time on one thing, one possibility. I'm difficulty of this, but you want to crack the puzzle. You want to get in. Is this the one thing that's going to help me get in? Every so often, step back, see if it's worth it. If I do crack this, what's the possible outcome of it? Is it possible, is it worth spending time on it? Can I get a possible root shell? Or is it just going to give me another session? or worse, nothing at all. So every so often you can take a break. Step back. You have your notes. You have all your information. You have your tool outputs and so on. Go ahead and take a break. Step back. Take a walk. Get something to drink. And think about. Take a drink. Yeah. Think about what what you're doing. You might need to put a pin in it and come back to it later. That's a big thing right there. Especially you can't get to work, or there could be more there. It's still valuable in your notes, and something you can still bring to the client. Say, I think I may have found some, but due to time constraints, I just had to stop working on this, and maybe something we can look at in a future pen test. So, on that, time. This is the one thing. Schedule scope creep and uncertainty. This is to be the one thing you need to work against. This is the one thing, besides scope and rules of engagement, as a pen tester is going to be your biggest hurdle. You might come back, am I done? So, if you're done, if you think you're done, you're not sure, go back to recon. If you sort of feel lost, go back to recon. Go back and look at your recon notes. Look at those different things. There could be something else you can move on to. And then, there's stuff that's out that still could be done. Keep that in your notes. You could summarize it in a report. It could be some more work later for you. This is definitely one too much left. Yeah, what I would lean on here is the last point here. Lean on risk. This last bullet here is really important. So you think you had way too much left. You did some scans. You have a larger of attack surface than you expected. Look at risk, hence risk on the client. So from that, what can I bubble up as probably the most potential thing that could be riskier to the client if it's breached? And then stuff that can be lower level or information level, maybe a vulnerability scan will help you deal with this. Push it off, keep note of it, but push it off to later. And you can say, you know what, later on we can look at it and maybe come back and revisit those lower ones in future testing. So use your risk analysis to help you decide where to move if you have a lot left to do. Done early doesn't really happen too much, but maybe you just don't find that much. Always go back to recon. Spend more time at recon if possible. You might discover more than you initially thought. And this is one I could do more. I swear I could do more. Maybe I should have done more. This is normal. The thought that you just didn't do enough. You didn't spend enough time checking out the vulnerability or trying to do the exploit. Keep that in your notes. Make note of it. You can communicate to your client. Again, as possible future work. And it's just normal to think, I failed a lot. I didn't find very much. I swear I could have done more. That's very normal mentality, very normal emotions you get from a pen test. So keep that in mind. Before you end, so everyone loves doing reports, right? Yeah, well, be ready for this because you need to. So you need to communicate out your signaling the noise. What did you find that's of utmost importance? Your notes are going to be the biggest part here. Keeping copious notes, and almost keep your notes in the fact that you can almost turn into a report. You can cherry pick stuff out of your notes, formalize it, put it into a good format, and you have yourself a nice report. I can't say enough that your notes are going to be so important. Not just scattered notes, but notes of timelines, screenshots. If you just don't screenshot 1, screenshot 2, screenshot login page, possible cross-site script 1, and same 2 and 3. Organizing these screenshots and notes will help you rip out the good stuff and put it into a report. So, and don't reinvent the wheel. For example, OWASP cheat sheets, link to best practices, tool output. That's a big one. If my report is going to someone who doesn't understand what a cross-site script is, I don't have to write a little summary on it. OWASP does a great job for that. OWASP has that, or even my example Burp Suite gives you a little tool, has links, and it has like a summary of what a cross-site script is. I'm going to copy it and paste that. So use what I can, put links to further information. So keep that in mind. That's where tool output is going to help out. And of course, you might need to actually present your findings. So be ready to speak about this. And then when it comes to this, know your audience. You speak it to a developer, and you speak a development language. This is where things like OWASP might come into play. You might find some good ways to communicate out what a cross-site script is to them. In terms, they will be able to find ways to understand it and how to find ways to mitigate it. You may actually make presentations, so that can be part of your job. So you're done. You did a good job. You have your notes. You delivered your results. You communicated. Maybe you did a meeting. Collect and reflect. Archive everything. Don't throw things away. I mean, this is probably this is of course a dumb moment. Of course, we're not going to do that, Dr. Mike. Yeah, but archive it and keep it safe. If you have what we call juicy findings, you might have PII, things like that. You might want to go ahead and archive that securely, secure zip or encrypt it. But you might need to come back and actually retest. Going back and seeing your previous notes is going to help you, previous report. Keep a copy of the report too. It's going to help you see what you did before so you can do further our follow-up tests. And reflect again, things that you failed upon, notes on your failures might actually be of value in future endeavors. You think, I tried that before, let me go see what I did. I ran this one attack, but nothing came out of it, but I think if I change it for this other pen test, it might work. I'm always going back to my previous notes and find things I've done before that were both success and both didn't work. It might help me, one, skip things I know are not going to work, or two, I might be able to maybe redeploy an attack and maybe get success from it. So on that, this is the final slide here. We're going to say, what is my Zen of Pen? I'm going to combine those first two definitions there. I'm going to say it's a state of calm and attentiveness, using actions guided by your intuition, and working under constraints, and attempting to defeat the security of a system or a break-in. So that is it. Hope it gives you some idea about what goes on when you try to do a pen test, a live pen test, and it helps you both in my course or in any future work. Thank you.